Matt Unruh with Gary Thomas, head football coach for the DC3 Conks, and good time to be meeting Coach. Records broken for a long time, and first conference championship after the win against Highland. Congratulations, Coach.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Way to cap off the season. 4 straight wins. First 9-win season since 1961. First conference championship. Share the conference championship since 1983, and I'm sure that doesn't water it down at all, having the share of it, but just good to hold that conference championship trophy, which I saw on Facebook the other day, by the way. Finally came in.
Finally got it yesterday. Co or not, it still counts the same. So I don't mind sharing it. We're proud of the body work that we put together.
Fantastic season, 9-2 on the year, and a big win over Highland, 51-26. Didn't overlook them, and took care of business on Saturday.
Well, there wasn't a lot to overlook. They're a really good football team, and specifically their defense, and they caused us some problems early, and it took us a while. Our defense kind of bailed us out in the first half, and then actually bailed us out in the second half as well, and came up with the score or two of their own, and so we, they put us in some good positions, and it was a good team win.
Yeah, and start off the game with a safety. Talk about the defensive stand there in the first quarter.
Yeah, well, that started with offense and special teams. We put together a couple first downs, and that's what we always talk about is we want to win the field position game. We're a little bit old school that way, and in the times of high flying offenses, and we've been there. Last year with DeAndre, we were just throwing it around left and right, but we're a little more conservative with this group because of the style of play that we play. And if we can get, we talk about on offense, if we can get 2 or 3 first downs and punt, we can win football games because we'll change field position, and odds are most people aren't going to put together too many 80-yard drives to beat us. So we've just got to wait for our defense to give us the short field, and so if we can be productive on offense, we don't have to be dynamic. If we can be productive, we'll win the football game as long as we play great defense and play sound on special teams. So we got a couple first downs. Dylan pinned them down there on the 2-yard line, and they ran 3 plays, and we pinned them back there on 3rd down in the end zone, and that gave us the lead and a little bit of momentum going into the second quarter.
Nice luxury to have that good punter there that can pin them back to the 2, and you get the safety, you get 2 fumble recoveries from the defense, a fantastic defensive performance really all season, and honestly, Coach, the past 3 years, something that maybe the Conks have been a little weaker at defensively, and it just goes to show you get a great defense put together, and we put together 9 wins.
Yeah, and it's, we didn't get smarter all of a sudden on defense. There's some trial and error along the way. Our defensive scheme has been the same for like 15 years. We didn't just invent this defense, but it takes some time to get the right players in the right system, and players in the right place, and then players that believe in what you're doing and can run it. And I've said this all along, when we run our defense correctly, we're very difficult to move the football on, but when we don't, we're easy to score on because it's a 60-yard touchdown instead of when we break a big play, it's a 25-yard gain against other defenses. Against ours, it's a touchdown because of where our fits have to happen, and we finally got some guys that believe, and we got some guys that are pretty good, and you put that all together, and you get, we went from dead last in the conference in every category to first in the conference in almost every category, and it's a lot easier to play the game when you got a great defense.
Fantastic defensive year for the Conks, and offense didn't have a whole lot put up total offense-wise, 271 yards. They didn't have much either, 299 yards. Tommy Lazzaro, 10-21, 146 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, so good news there. Managed the game well, and then Mark Thompson does what he does best and gets 150-plus yards, 159 on 27 carries, so offense did enough to get the job done.
Yeah, they're very good on defense, like I mentioned before. It took us a minute to get the run game going because they're slanting and they're twisting and they're playing 50 shades, and it's it's difficult to move the ball on until you get in the right rhythm, and then they're bringing pressure at you, and you don't want to be predictable, but we took some sacks. We had trouble protecting the quarterback early, and then the quarterback got rattled a little bit because of the pressure, and then we took some additional sacks. So some of the total yardage is deceiving, I think. We did move the ball a little better than the statistics show because if you take away the negative yards, but those actually happen. I mean, it is part of the game, but we did move the ball at times during the game and put together some productive drives, and But our defense really helped us with a couple scores and gave us like 4 different short fields that we capitalized on and at least got points out of. And Dylan was good again, kicked a couple field goals and was good again on extra points. So again, we're very sound. We're not really dynamic in any really aspect of the game, but we're very sound in all of them, which makes us very difficult to beat.
Coach, I know third quarter has been sort of a struggle for the Conks at times this year, but actually get the win in the third quarter, 22-13, thanks to a couple TDs from the offense and an interception return as well. Talk about what went on in the third quarter, maybe what went on in halftime.
Well, halftime it was, it felt like we were at a funeral in there. I mean, it was quiet and it was somber, and we were winning the game. But just told the guys that we've got to calm down, settle down, and settle in a little bit, and told the defense that they played really well in the first half, but they also gave 2 free drives up that were just bad. And explained to them that it's as a defense, it's your job to create the big plays, but it's your job to stop them. Doesn't matter how bad the situation. And the one thing I did really talk to him about is it's not about credit at this point. We've got 30 minutes left of football, and it's kind of all or nothing. It's not about defense versus offense. It's not about this guy versus this guy. It's just about that our offense needs help from our defense. We're struggling. We'll get it figured out, but we're struggling and we need some help. And we come out of the gate and we didn't play well. We kick off and they take it all the way back to the 30 and they score in 2 plays, and then all of a sudden we lost the lead. They kick off to us and they 3-and-out us, and we have to punt it back to them. And they had a chance to go up 2 scores, and then all of a sudden, bang, we get the pick 6, and then it was over from there. So, but that's what it takes sometimes, and we have guys that step up and made plays when they had to, and that's when you look at championship teams, they do a lot of different things over the course of a season. You need some luck, you need to stay healthy, sometimes you can't explain why the ball will bounce one way or the other, but the ball just seems to bounce to us. And in years that you're good, you're going to get some breaks that you can't count on, and in years that you're bad, it seems like it doesn't matter what you do, the ball just doesn't come to you. So we've had one of those years where things have gone our way, and hopefully they'll continue to do so.
Conks taking a share of the conference title with Butler after the win against Highland, 9-2 on the season. Fantastic end of the season, and Coach, gotta love to see the zeros in the box score on your opponent's side in the first quarter, and especially to end the game in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely.
So a good win, 51-26 over Highland for the Conks. And one other thing I want to point out, and I wasn't able to make it for the whole game on Saturday, but great crowd I heard on the Purple Out, the Dollar Day for concessions and entrance for the game. How was the atmosphere?
It was good. We have quite a few, Western Kansas kids playing, which helps with obviously your crowd. I think the biggest 2 things that affect our crowds, and having been here 3 years, people talk about what time you kick off, and the biggest 2 things are winning and weather. If you're winning, they'll come watch you, and if the weather's good, they'll come watch you. If you're winning and the weather's bad, they won't come watch you. If you're losing and the weather's good, they won't come watch you. You need to be winning, and the weather needs to be good, and you can fill the seats. So, we've been pretty fortunate with this recruiting class to be heavy on Western Kansas kids, and hopefully with this next recruiting class we can be there as well. And obviously a lot of our out-of-state kids, their families can't be here every weekend for games, and even some of our kids that are kind of east of Wichita, it takes a lot more planning to get out here from Topeka and Leavenworth and Kansas City and all that kind of stuff. So this was sophomore day too, so we had a lot of parents, especially there, because we did a tribute to those guys and their families, and it was a good environment.
Good win for the Conks, and now we look ahead to potential bowl, and pretty sure, especially for the conference championship in the Jayhawk, the Conks will be going to a bowl here in a few weeks. Kind of talk about the process. I know at this point, this being filmed on November 10th, probably find out later today where you're going, possibly, if not later in the week. But what's kind of the process for the next few weeks building up to first bowl game in a couple of years?
Well, the polls don't come out till right around 1 o'clock today, and then we'll kind of have an idea of where they kind of ranked us. And some of that has to do with some of the bowl implications for the other bowls, and then you get kind of a trickle-down effect from there, what the NJCAA is going to do with the so-so national championship. Again, that's going to affect, I think, because the trickle-down from potentially the Arizona Conference, If Snow jumps over Rochester, then they're going to go to Mississippi for the national championship, which would affect potentially Arizona Western's Bowl and the El Toro Bowl. I don't know what Butler's going to do right now. We're pretty much the only 2 bowl teams that are possible out of this conference. I know Texas is probably an attractive deal at this point. Maricopa County and in Phoenix is probably a possibility, and then potentially Hutch is a possibility for everybody. So it's kind of wide open. We could end up with something. We could also end up with nothing. So it's just kind of the way the world works, and we'll just wait and see how the chips play out.
Yeah, and just got to be happy to have a bowl game possibility. Talk about how playing in a bowl game later in the season, the extra practice, maybe extra recruiting, how that benefits your program. We're so sophomore heavy. I don't know that it helps us in the long term. They talk about at the Division I level, the extra month of practice is huge. And it is when you've got 4-5 classes of guys, fresh, red shirts all the way through seniors. Yeah.
We've got 23 guys that'll be leaving our program, potentially a little more than that. How many of these guys return for next year and are going to get better in the next 10 practices? I don't know that there's a huge jump in development in their skill set in the next 10 days. Where it really helps us the most is in recruiting. To be honest, if I take a redshirt guy and if we got 8 more practices before the bowl game in, or 12 more practices before the bowl game in, is he going to get better doing that, or is he going to get better 4 days in the weight room for the next 3 weeks? And the answer is the weight room for a lot of the red shirts. So I don't know that it helps us from that standpoint. The biggest thing is being able to play in the postseason for recruiting, and that's our focus right now for the next probably 2.5 weeks. Is we've got to get on the road and get caught up a little bit in recruiting, and before we go into the Thanksgiving break and before we go into bowl week.
How about for your sophomores? I know the conference championship's got to help with their ability to get looks at other schools, but extra bowl game, how does that affect them on being recruited by other schools?
Probably not much. A lot of our guys are top recruited guys this year. So, Mark's going to go to Florida, whether he practices for the next 2 weeks or not. Some of the guys that had a trickle down effect, maybe it could affect some of them. A lot of the next 3 weeks, our guys will be on recruiting trips, and I give them these next 3 Saturdays to go visit places. So, Jeff will go to Tennessee, and the guys that have official visits left and official visits set up, they'll be on the road the next 3 Saturdays for the most part, because then we have the bowl, and then they have 1 or 2 weeks in December, and a lot of the four-year schools are trying to cram these next 3 Saturdays in because they want to bring kids in on campus when they have a home game. So it's very, very competitive to get these next 3 Saturdays locked up for recruiting. So right now it's kind of an all-out recruiting war for the four-year schools, not necessarily for us. Guys have been trickling in here as their bye week happens, but we'll really see a lot more traffic probably the first, second week of December before the Christmas break for some of those other guys.
And the conference title, just that alone, Coach, has got to help with recruiting in Southwest Kansas and overall in Kansas. I mean, you can now say that you're right up there with the Butlers. I
hope it does.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know in about March. But you would hope that having that ring to your program and having that title should help you, and I hope people after 3 years now realize that it wasn't a fluke. We had a chance to do it in 2013 and we just didn't finish it, and we got it done in 2015. So we've proven that we're capable of doing it more than once. We're not a one-hit wonder. We're not a flash in the pan. So
yeah.
But we're gonna need a really, really, really good recruiting class to keep that process going. At this level, there's just no stability. Hutch won their first one in 15 years, or first one ever, maybe last year. They went 11-1, and they finished 5-6 this year. So, and they didn't have a bad recruiting class. They had a really good football team.
No, they're picked top in the conference to begin the year.
Yeah, they were number 3 in the nation at one point, and then lost 6 football games. So, that's how hard it is in this conference to stay on top, and it's, you just get some years that are, you talk about Butler, the run that they had for 10 or 12, 13 years, whatever it was really impressive, and they're still a quality program. But if you look at the last 3 years, they're not exactly just dominating people anymore, and there's a lot of relativity to the conference now, and a lot of ability of anybody to beat anybody at any given time. So, they're still a quality program. They were this year. They were third place last year, and then they won it the year before that. So it's a difficult thing to stay on top these days. And you got the hunters coming after the hunted, and we've got a lot of work to do if we want to repeat something like this. And a lot of 5 in the morning workouts in January and February and March, and spring ball is going to drag on, and you're out there in 35-mile-an-hour wind with snow falling down and wondering, is it all worth it? Saturday it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we could show the guys that the process, if you stick to the process, we always talk about the process. If you stick to the process is never wrong. And this time it for sure wasn't. But you surround yourself with a group of guys, and this is at all level, and I think it's a societal deal, not a Dodge City thing, but people don't believe like they used to, and I think that's just an old school mentality maybe, but with what our society has turned into, you get people that don't stand for very much. They're fair weather people, and they just kind of flow, and they go the path of least resistance. And in football, there is no path of least resistance to a championship. And you bring guys in, and you tell them this is how it has to be, and you're strict with your discipline and all these things. And when you lose, guys are going, for what? Why am I doing this? And there has to be some success. They have to taste the success early in the season to start to believe, and you have to break them down before you build them back up, and that's part of our process. And it's proven successful for a really long time, and I didn't invent the process. I learned it fortunately from some very good programs and some very good coaches along the way, but you have to have the right group of people. You have to have a coaching staff that believes in your philosophy and stands by you 100%, and the kids can't get mixed messages from different coaches. It has to be a constant message all the time, and it can't be like, mom has one set of rules and dad has another, because then they'll just find ways to wiggle through the system. And when you have a chink in your chain, kids aren't dumb. If you have a different set of rules for different guys, they go, either they're going to stop believing, stop listening, or they're going to go, well, you really don't mean what you say. So it's a difficult thing over a long period of time, and you have to have a great group of support, and you have to have a great group of athletes, and we're fortunate to kind of have all those things fall into place for us this year.
Yeah, like you said, Coach, it all stems back to spring training, all that, or spring football, all that work paying off, and really you could say it goes back to last year too. All those sophomores, the experience they gained from last
Absolutely.
year, even though it was a tough season, I think they learned a lot from that.
Absolutely.
And carried that over, and they wanted to win again.
No doubt.
And look where they are now. Conference champs and one of the toughest conferences in JUCO football. The Jayhawk Conference, and DC3 is on top, right there with Butler. Shared or not, it's a conference championship. First one since 1983. First 9-win season since 1961. Congratulations, Coach.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Gary Thomas, head football coach of the DC3 Conks, and we'll probably be talking to you soon just to get an update on where we're going for the bowl game. And
Absolutely.
Good to know that this isn't our last interview, Coach.
Absolutely.
You got to put up with me one more time,
Absolutely.
or two
Not
or
a
three
problem.
more times.
Not a problem. I'm just glad people want to listen to me.
Absolutely. And look at us, too.
Absolutely.
Gary Thomas, head football coach for the DC3 Conks. I'm Matt Unruh, and we'll talk to you again once we hear about the bowl game.